Please use the raise hand function if you have a question. First question from Chris Tuck. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, Coach, after reviewing the film against Charleston Southern, what stood out to you as the biggest issues?
Well, it's been the same issue, since we started practice in July. Our defense and our defensive rebounding are just not at the level we need to play at. According to Ken Palm, who evaluates your efficiency both offensively and defensively, we're 277th in defense. And we're right there as same with our defensive rebounding. So we keep working on that and hoping that we're going to get better. We're going to try some subtle changes. What's interesting to me is we also compared this team to the Elite Eight team that I coached just, 3 seasons ago. And at this time, then, our defense and rebounding was terrible. And then we figured out a way to defend better. And then all of a sudden we started winning more games and getting more stops. And it wasn't from getting any better rebounding. It was putting more pressure on the opponent and forcing more turnovers. So we went from like 277 to like 107th, which is not great, but we were scoring the ball at a very high level, so it worked. Right now, our offense efficiency is 24th in the country. So from an offensive standpoint, we don't always look good, and I'm disappointed that we're not playing better on offense. But I also see we have a lot of potential offensively if we can get a few more stops and get a chance to get out on the fast break. But when you're constantly, giving up offensive rebounds like we did to Charleston Southern, where they got 22 points off of their missed shots and our defensive backboards, and that's a real issue. Players have to make defensive rebounding a priority.
Next question from Matt Shodell. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Jim. Thanks for taking the time. Wanted to get an update on Nigel and when he might be fully healthy. And then also, you mentioned the defensive issues. Is part of this also just having so many new guys and just maybe they're not really understanding how to play together as well as they will eventually at this early point in the season?
Yeah, I'd say that's definitely true. First of all, when you have 10 new guys and they all play defense at different schools, we have, basically four freshmen who are just learning everything for the first time. And then we have like 7 seniors who all came from different programs and played defense differently and are trying to learn our system. It's not that ours is complicated, but you do have to communicate very well. And right now, that's a real weakness. Like we had a play the other day where we were planning to switch. We called it at the timeout and said, okay, we have 2 like sizes, and we're going to switch the ball screen, the initial ball screen, so that we don't put 2 on the ball. And we didn't switch correctly, and the guy who screened rolled to the basket, caught it, and just made a layup. So that's just a lack of communication. The players have to do a better job there. And we've got to be more demanding in practice to be sure they're doing it right. The funny thing is, in practice, we've been doing a lot of these things correctly, and then the game comes and our mental preparation, our mental toughness is not as good as it needs to be.
Oh, and any update on Nigel's status?
Yeah, last week we practiced on Wednesday. Nigel practiced the whole time. We practiced on Friday. He practiced the whole time. And then on Saturday, the injury bothered him. So we'll find out today, probably around 4 o'clock, 4:30. We start practice at 3:30. He'll warm up and start to go. And if it bothers him, he'll sit out. And if he's good to go, he'll prepare for the game tomorrow.
Next question from Michelle Kaufman. Go ahead, Michelle.
All right. Hey, Jim, I want to know, what are you expecting from Arkansas? I know that they just lost to Illinois, but they have a big, like a 7-2 Croatian center. Another guy who scored 26 points the other day. What what are you expecting from that team? And John Calipari, I'm assuming you know him pretty well.
Yeah, I know Coach Cal very well. I have known him for a very long time. They've got a bunch of NBA guys. The first is the 7-footer, what we call Big Z. He's an NBA stretch 5-man. He's a very, very good 3-point shooter. He's shooting, I forget what it is off the top of my head, but like 65% from 3. So you got to guard him, even though he's a 7-footer, you got to guard him at the 3-point line. Theo, if you remember last year, he played at Kentucky at the team that spanked us in the second half, and he was terrific. He's their 4-man who's a phenomenal athlete. So we got to keep him and the 7-footer off the glass. They're both great at catching lobs, so they'll screen and roll and catch lobs. But the guy that makes them go is Boogie Flan, the point guard, who is lightning quick. He's a freshman who had the ball in his hands a ton. He plays almost the whole game. And he's an expert at using ball screens. So a lot of those players who are going to play in the NBA live off of his creativity. So it's very hard to slow Boogie down because he catches an outlet. He's so fast, he can be a one-man fast break. Hero is the same way. The outlet rebounds and outlets. He's just a Karl Malone type guy who runs the court and dunks the ball. And then they got DJ Wagner, who's a great 6'4" athlete, and John L. Davis, who everyone should know, who led FAU to the Final Four 2 years ago. So, and then they've got a very deep bench with a lot of tall guys coming in off the bench. So we got our hands full. They're a very typical John Calipari team with a bunch of NBA guys and a bunch of size.
So how do you think you guys measure up to that? And do you think maybe the challenge of playing a team like that, maybe your guys will rise to the occasion? Or
well, I don't really look at it that way. Every game is a separate entity. Right. So when you play one team that sits in a zone, it's a different style. Another team that plays pressure man to man and switches everything, that's a different style. When you play a John Calipari team, you're talking about a team that devotes a lot of its energy to defense, because if they get stops, they just score in transition because they're so fast and athletic. So our job is going to be, don't turn the ball over, try to get good shots and score. Because if we don't score, before we ever get back to guard them, they'll be trying to outrun us.
Thank you.
Next question from Chris Stock. Go ahead, Chris.
Coach, it's a little bit about what you've been saying about Calipari's team and how to defend them, but in particular, their ball screens, their middle ball screens, does it look very similar, just a kind of a typical Calipari team, and maybe the challenges those ball screens present with Boogie and DJ and their guys?
Yeah, I would say it's very similar to an NBA team. If you see Jamal Murray with Nikola Jokic, they run that same play constantly. The Clippers with James Harden and Zubac, all these NBA teams with great point guards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the big kid from Gonzaga, what's his name? Chet Holmgren. So all these NBA teams run that middle pick and roll. And I think, Cal coached in the NBA. He's very familiar with NBA type offense and offensive players. So he's created an NBA, prep school.
One more question. Go ahead, Chris.
Just wanted to ask about Matthew Cleveland. I didn't see him against VCU in the second half and the 16 minutes off the bench. Kind of what's going on with him with his minutes, and is he okay, or what's kind of your thought process?
Yeah, he's fine. I just, would like him to play better. We need him to defend and rebound and make shots. And the other day, when he played in the second half, I thought the best he played was in a 5-minute segment, and he guarded the point guard. So we've got to look at that as a potential, change in our strategy, because his defense off the ball has not been nearly as good. And, there's really three parts to at least 3 or 4 parts to defense: on the ball defense, off the ball defense, defensive rebounding, and there's also like team defense, just knowing where to be to help. It's off the ball, but it's even more than off the ball. We've had players who are not great on the ball defenders, but are just terrific team defenders. Last year, we had Keyshawn George, who was a liability defensively when he was on the ball, but an absolutely terrific team defender. He helped everybody, and our defense was better when he was on the court. We need more guys like that who are really good at helping each other.
Hey, Jalen, big game obviously coming up tomorrow. Can you talk about the challenge that the guards in particular face with, how much have you watched Boogie Flan and what he does? Coach was just telling us, a little scouting report on what to expect with their Croatian big, but also with the guard play. What are you guys going to have to do to be effective against them?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a full team effort. Those guards are really good and they're really quick and they can get downhill. So it'll be a full team effort to keep those guys out of the paint and take them out of rhythm on shots.
If I could ask one follow-up, what's sort of the team's morale right now, coming off 4 losses in a row? What's been said amongst you guys after the game the other day or in the days since then? What's kind of the mindset going into this big nationally televised game?
Yeah, so Coach L, his big thing is always keeping a good attitude, and I think guys are trying to do that. We had a team meeting, and I think it's getting us on the right track for this big week we have coming up.
Thank you.
Next question from Matt Shodell. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh yeah, hey. So you mentioned obviously the team meeting. Can you share maybe some of the things that were addressed, and do you think it's really maybe going to help this team come together now?
Yeah, really, we just were talking about staying positive and starting to do the little things better because little things go a long way, and us older guys know that, and we're just trying to stay positive and keep doing the right things.
Next question from Chris Stock. Go ahead, Chris.
Jalen, I'm curious how you think you can be better defensively when you watch film in particularly these last 4 games. What are things that you're noticing about yourself and maybe your approach moving forward?
Well, just trying to be in the right spots defensively, like being higher when they're in ball screens and getting over ball screen better. I've watched the last couple games a lot, so I learned a lot about those games.
Hey, Austin, I wanted to ask you, being a freshman, you had a big game the other day. I mean, the result was not what you wanted, but you really added quite a spark with your play in that game. What are you expecting from this Arkansas game and the challenge of going up against, some of the guys like Boogie Flan and, people like that, guards, Janelle Davis and some of the guards that you're going to have to go up against? What are you expecting from that game and for you in particular?
It's great to meet you. And thank you for your words. Honestly, I say it's really another game. Obviously you want to get in the win column, and it's definitely more than about me. But in terms of those guys are great. I've seen Boogie and EYBL over the summer. Playing them a couple of times over there. Never played John L before, but I've seen what he's done at FAU. So those are 2 top guards in the country, and can't wait for my matchup against them. Try to play.
Thank you. One follow-up. We were just speaking to Jalen, and he said that you guys had a team meeting. I was asking about what's the mindset and mentality? How's the morale when you're coming off 4 losses consecutive? What is the morale? How was that team meeting for you? What do you think needs to happen for you guys to step up, especially with the rebounding and the defensive end? Obviously, you guys have shown that you can score, but the problems have been on the other parts of the game.
I really just displaying toughness and saying what we need to say to each other. And it was a great conversation that we had. And just kind of some of the things that we need to clean up, like you said, the defense and the rebounding, and us talking about how we could improve that and how we could help each other out. So it makes it easier for everybody else. And so we're expecting definitely some changes when we come into the next game. And I'd say that it was definitely a needed conversation. It was a good conversation that we had.
When was it? When was that conversation?
I'll say following the loss, like a couple days ago, something like that.
And was it with the coaches or just the players?
We had both meetings.
Okay. Thank you. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Chris.
Just with Boogie, obviously from seeing him at PSA and whatnot, just what makes him a difficult player, and maybe, he's producing now. What do you see now with his game?
I'd say really the biggest difference I've seen since I played him over the summer, I'd probably say just making smarter decisions. He has a really good turnover to assist ratio right now. And I think he's really improved that part of his game and getting others open. So I think that was the biggest improvement of what I've seen so far.
We got one more from Michelle.
Yep. All right. I just wondered, off the game that you played the other day, are you expecting to, first of all, how did you feel, getting to really be a key player in the important moments? And how do you think that might translate going forward? Do you think you may have a bigger role in the game tomorrow? What's been your conversations with the coaching staff about that?
Nothing that's not normal. Everything's been normal as usual. I'd say that I've been prepared for this moment, and I'm gonna keep preparing for the moment whenever my opportunity is called. So just whenever it's called on Tuesday, I'm gonna be ready and go out there and perform.
What do you think you bring? What do you bring to the table, you think?
Bring some defense, bring some 3-point shooting, bring scoring ability, space the floor. I think I'm able to switch 1 through 3, 1 through 4 sometimes, depending on who the 4 is. Just kind of be able to be a switchable defender, be a bigger defender on the floor than some of the other guards we have on our team. So just kind of bringing that and take the pressure off some of the guards, some of the bigs who do most of the scoring. So to leave the pressure off them and stuff like that.